Wherever there is danger, there lurks opportunity. Earl Nightingale. It's hard to discern the blessing in a cancer diagnosis, but it can be the opening to a greater experience of health and life.
She used to deliver babies, but now she delivers exceptional wellness for women. Welcome to Her Brilliant Health Radio, where holistic women's health expert and board-certified OBGYN Dr. Kieran Dunstan shares revolutionary insight from leading experts on what you need to know today to treat the root cause of disease, heal, and create the radiant health you've been searching for. Lean in and get ready to experience the bountiful, blissful, and beautiful vitality that you deserve.
Welcome back, Brilliant Healthers. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Brilliant Health Revolution. I'd like to send a shout out to someone who left a beautiful review for the podcast on iTunes this week. Surf Girl 62. She says, functional health rock star, and gives it 5 stars. Kieran is on a mission to help women feel so much better, and she is brilliant. It's imperative that women feel empowered to take charge of their health because all of our chronic health conditions are under our control to resolve, and she puts all in all caps. She'll give you the steps to feeling so much better through these incredible interviews and her amazing spot-on insights. Thank you so much, Surf Girl 62, for your wonderful review. I'm so grateful that you find the podcast empowering. If you're listening right now, you're here for a reason. And the same reason that brought you is the reason another woman needs to be here too. A woman you know. It might be your mother, your sister, your daughter, your friend, your boss, your coworker, your employee. It doesn't matter. It's a woman who's in your sphere of influence, and you need to reach out to her. Women find the help they are needing by women like you sharing this podcast with them. So far, I haven't been featured on the 5 o'clock news, so it depends on your caring enough to share the podcast and also rate and review it on iTunes. You are being of service to other women when you rate and review, because the most highly rated and reviewed podcasts are pushed out to people. No reviews, no push. Then the exact woman who desperately needs this information can't find this podcast. So if you find this podcast, this topic, this guest, this information in any way uplifting, informative, inspirational, or life-changing, please be of service to your fellow woman and share it with her. And go to iTunes and rate and review. 1 out of every 2 of us will get cancer in our lifetime, and that's the topic of this episode. So you really should be sending a link to every woman you know. Who knows? It just may save her life. The Chinese symbol for crisis is composed of 2 Chinese characters signifying danger and opportunity, respectively. When most people get a cancer diagnosis, they only see danger and have fear. But the truth is that with current technologies and integrative strategies, cancer can actually be the beginning of a healing journey and a greater experience of life. It's an opportunity to reevaluate your health foundations and do a complete renovation of the faulty structures you've laid down that led you to cancer and will lead you to other diseases. And those are your health habits. So you see, contrary to what you may believe, cancer usually doesn't come out of the blue. It comes out of the oblivious. Many people believe that they'll get cancer because it's inherited, but that's only true for about 5% of cancers. That's the out of the blue portion. And even those risks can be mitigated with proper preparation. The other 95% that come out of the oblivious are due to environmental and lifestyle factors, which means it's under your control. So if you know that 1 out of 2 of us will get cancer in our lifetime, then you can educate yourself about what causes it and make sure that you are not laying the foundation for cancer to grow in you. You can take action and prepare ahead of time. The right time to do this is now while you're thinking about it, not next week, not next summer, not next year, or when blank, blank, blank. You fill in the blank, right? You're always like, I'll take care of my health when the time is now. The only time is now. That's the only time you can improve your health. Cancer is the result of too many negative inputs in your lifestyle and not enough positive inputs and a lack of balance. Like I say, to heal, you got to get the bad stuff out, good stuff in, balance everything. We'll get into more details during the episode, but I'd like to give you an overall perspective before we get started. You're going to love my guest today, Dr. Connealy. You've heard me talk about the pyramid of success many times, and that has hormone balance at the bottom. Then toxicity is next, which is what drives inflammation in the body. Nutritional deficiencies on top of that, and mental, emotional, spiritual balance and energetics at the top of the pyramid. So your cells, they multiply and divide each and every day. Your muscles need repair, all your organs need repair, your skin, your eyes, everything in your body. In fact, in 7 years' time, almost all the cells in your body are completely new. So just think, if you start today, you could be a completely different person physically in 7 years. So when the cells are multiplying and dividing, they make errors in the DNA. Errors that could lead to cancer. But something stops these abnormal cells from becoming cancer, and that's your immune system. Yep, your immune system doesn't only protect you from infections like the colds and flu, it also protects you from getting things like cancer. So your immune system comes behind and cleans up those abnormal cells that have errors that could become cancer and gets rid of them. You have no idea this is going on, but it really is each and every second of every single day. Just like when driving your car, you have an accelerator and a brake, right, in your car. At least I have that in my car. I hope you have that in yours. So one moves you forward, the other slows you down or stops you. And you need both for the car to function optimally. You have to have an accelerator that can get you up to the speeds on the highway, and then you have to have a brake that can get you down to zero. The same is true for each and every disease that you can experience, including cancer. There's always an accelerator and there's always a brake. And to get disease, you have to have an accelerator pushing on the abnormalities that cause the disease, like DNA disruption occurring with cell replication. And the brake has to be broken. The brake that comes behind and fixes it is your immune system, but that has to be broken for you to get diseases and cancer. So the accelerators for cancer are things like environmental chemicals, things like pesticides, volatile organic compounds or VOCs, phthalates from plastic, bisphenol A that lines tin cans, artificial colors, sweeteners, preservatives in foods, off-gassing from furnishings, building materials, and on and on. And if you want more detail on this, check out one of the first few episodes I did. It was one of the first 3 where I talked with Laura Adler. She's an environmental chemical specialist, and she looks at how it interfaces with our human body and causes illness. So listen to that one. So other lifestyle factors like not getting enough sleep, not enough macronutrients, micronutrients, and we'll get more into it in the episode this and next week, increase your risk for cancer. So the faulty brake on cancer is a snoozing immune system. But what causes that? It's the stress hormone cortisol has gone awry. I call her Queen Cortisol because she runs everything. She runs your sleep-wake cycle, your weight, your energy, and most importantly, your immune system. This determines whether you get sick or not and whether you get cancer or not. This is why people often get cancer after highly stressful events like the death of a spouse. The stress on their cortisol lessens immune system function, and there's no early cancer cleanup. But it's not only psychosocial stress that aggravates your cortisol, it's also physical stress. And we'll talk more about this and where it comes from and what to do about it during next week's episode, part 2 with Dr. Connealy, that you won't want to miss. So I met Dr. Connealy when we were both speaking at the Age Management Medicine Group conference in Las Vegas a few years ago. After learning about her center in California, I had to go visit, and she has all the latest equipment and technology. And I also especially love her wonderful holistic view of health. She really treats the whole person, and we are alike in that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll get started. Named one of the top 50 functional and integrative doctors in the country in 2017, Dr. Leigh Erin Connealy, MD, is a prominent leader in the integrative functional medicine and cancer fields. As the medical director of the Cancer Center for Healing and the Center for New Medicine, the combined largest integrative medical clinic in North America, which has served over 47,000 patients worldwide. She leads a multidisciplined state-of-the-art team in determining and treating the origin of disease and cancer using progressive modalities. Her clinics offer the most scientifically and technologically advanced equipment and protocols, including RGCC genetic testing, that determines the earliest stages of cancer, years before it is recognized by traditional methods like imaging. Dr. Connealy has revolutionized the landscape of medicine with her progressive clinics and is the author of The Cancer Revolution and Be Perfectly Healthy. She hosts the TV series Dr. Detective TV, writes for the authoritative Townsend Letter, and serves on the board for Dr. Josh Axe, the American College for Advancement in Medicine, and American College for Advancement in Medicine Connect. Dr. Connealy trains medical practitioners globally and educates through speaking engagements, webinars, and podcasts that include the highly successful series The Truth About Cancer with Jonathan Otto, Nathan Crane, and Dr. McCullough, and Beyond Chemo, Outside the Box Cancer Therapies with Dr. Mark Stengler and the Beat Cancer Boot Camp. Welcome, Dr. Leigh Erin Connealy.
Thank you for having me.
So one of your centers is called the Center for New Medicine. What does new medicine mean?
Okay, well, that's a good question. It's actually old new medicine because the way I practice is actually using things that have been around for a very, very long time. And they've, how things kind of go full circle. And so, like, people don't realize, like, coffee enemas were part of the Merck manual back in 1970 or whatever year it was, but a long time ago. And now they were taken out of the Merck manual, but it's something that's been around for over 100 years now. It was started out in World War I, and they basically devised it for pain because there was no pain medication, no pain management. And sure enough, coffee enemas worked on the soldiers, and they're like, okay, well, we got to understand really the science of coffee enemas. So sure enough, they figured out that the coffee enemas cleaned out the liver, and the blonder the coffee, the better the phytonutrients. And so coffee enemas are well and alive today. And just in the last 48 hours, I had so much interesting story. I had a patient, she goes, Dr. Connealy, you told me to do those coffee enemas and the pain on my side is gone. And then another patient from Glendale told me, she goes, Dr. Connealy, is this possible? I did the coffee enema and my friend said, you move so much different. Anyway, so it's bringing old things that have been around for a long time, whether they're herbs, nutrients, or anything, back to, brand new again. And new medicine, also called functional medicine, also called integrative medicine, is using the new medicine, the medicine, conventional Western medicine, whether it's physical exams and blood work and x-rays and CT scans and PET scans, because that technology really helps us, okay? So I don't want to take away from that. But it's also the new things that are coming out all the time. There's new technology. It's like the cell phone was big and bulky and horrible 30 years ago. Now you have this little cell phone that can do over billions of functions. And so medicine has come the same way. But we're still practicing, unfortunately, in the old ways, because when you and I went to medical school, we didn't learn. I've been doing this 33, 34 years. We learned all the great basics of anatomy and physiology and pathology and pharmaceuticals, but we didn't learn what the new things that we're like integrating cleansing and integrating, mastering the Krebs cycle and fixing the Krebs cycle, which is all doctors learn this in medical school. So it's now really looking at the matrix of the body, how the body works. I tell people we don't have to guess anymore. We test and we absolutely know, whether they're mold testing or parasite testing, nutrient testing. We have great cancer testing. That's available, but no one knows. And the doctors have to go back to school. Like you and I, we had to go back and go to courses and study after we finished medical school and training. We've had to go back and learn because science and technology is skyrocketing.
Yes, and I love coffee enema, so I'm thrilled that you mentioned that. I call it my secret weapon to great health. So yes, we were both traditionally trained, and I have my story of how I discovered this type of medicine. So how did you evolve to discover and embrace alternative complementary functional modalities to treat disease? What happened for you?
Well, what happened for me is I was born in the 50s and my mother was pregnant with me. She started bleeding. She went to her doctor and her doctor said, "Oh, we have this great drug that's going to prevent the miscarriage." And sure enough, of course, people listen to their doctors. And she took this drug. 16 years later, my parents receive a letter stating that that drug, DES, caused cancer in male and female offspring. So I needed to go to MD Anderson right away, which is, I grew up in Texas. MD Anderson is the cancer mecca of the world. And sure enough, I started having obviously issues and problems. I had terrible, I never had 2 periods in a row in my life. So I would go into this eternal PMS. And then I found progesterone, fortunately, in my late 20s. They put me on birth. I went through a lot of episodes of conventional going on birth control pills, which made me feel terrible and gained 10 pounds and all kinds of other great, wonderful things. And then I've had a life of health challenges that have taught me we have to do this a different way. And so a lot of health challenges. So I also grew up with my mother teaching me about nutrition, meaning she didn't know what we know now. But she had this nutritionist, Adele Davis, very famous lady a long time ago. And we grew up on bone marrow and sauerkraut and liver and all the things that are like really popular today. Okay. So I already had some information because my mom, there were 6 of us, so we couldn't afford to go out to eat, much less, the unruly nature of 6 kids. And so my mom cooked everything from scratch at home. So that's kind of what started. But then it was my own problems that I'd go to doctors and they would like look at me in the deer in the headlights and like, I don't really know. And they didn't think I was crazy because I was a doctor. So if I were to have been a regular patient, they would have just said, well, I don't know what to do with you. So it has started, and that started, long time ago. And so I've learned an immense, and I'm in constant search. And I just want people to know what you and I know. And we want the world to know this, right?
Yes. And so I tell my patients when I meet people and I tell them what I do, they say, well, why doesn't my regular doctor tell me this? And I have to explain a lot to them. And the truth is that almost all physicians who practice this type of medicine had some health challenge themselves that they couldn't overcome, or they had a loved one with a health challenge. And you meet people like this at our conferences, at the A4M or IFM. And so there has to be some impetus for a physician to look past what they're taught in medical school and residency. And then when they get the board certification, they're told, for instance, with me, I was told, well, you know more about women's health than anyone else in the world because you are board certified OBGYN. But when I couldn't fix my own health challenges, and I really noticed that my patients weren't truly becoming vitally alive, they just had symptoms controlled, that's when I became open to learn something new. And so it's through pain that we have learned this. And it really is, I know it's your passion and purpose to bring this message to the world. And I feel strongly as well about that. And I know why you wrote The Cancer Revolution, and we're going to talk about a little bit about today some innovative strategies for treating cancer that you use in your center, which I've been to and is absolutely fabulous. And if you are listening and you're suffering with cancer, you want to go visit Dr. Connealy Center. I do not treat active patients with active cancer. People ask me all the time. And what I explain is that that's a real specialty in functional medicine. There's a real art to it. And there are people who are trained in specifically treating people with active cancer. And so I refer them to you, to someone who's trained in that. But let's talk a little bit about your book. And I really want to highlight most of my listeners are female. So anything you can offer them about the female cancers in terms of breast, ovarian, cervical, uterine, it would be great. Standard cancer treatments that everyone knows about include surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and sometimes hormonal manipulation as well. But overall, what's different about integrative cancer treatment?
Well, integrative cancer treatment tries to understand the why, where, when, and how did you get here. From one cancer cell to tumor manifestation is 10 years. So that means we have 9 years of health opportunity to prevent cancer, and we're not doing it. And as you and I both know, conventional medicine is about disease, and the disease gets worse. Doctors are not preventing illness, okay? The insurance companies don't pay for prevention. They don't pay for early detection. And so it's unfortunate, but this is just the way it is. But now, since JAMA wrote an article, October 2019, that says that a functional medicine approach has a far better outcome than a conventional. So when we do, the World Health Organization publishes that most diseases, 80 to 90%, are due to eating and lifestyle. At the present time, there are no doctors teaching patients, why do you think this happened? What are you doing in your lifestyle? So first thing I always do is say, okay, what have you changed since you got this diagnosis? 100% of patients, guess what the first thing they changed? What they are eating. Because everyone is eating how they grew up, which was cereal, which is basically a candy bar. They have a juice box at lunch and bologna sandwiches or some kind of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, more apt. And then at dinner, they've got spaghetti. Well, you just ate sugar all day long. Well, sugar is the nemesis for every disease process, whether you're talking about cancer, Alzheimer's, autoimmune, or heart disease. Sugar is the enemy, all right? And sugar is an addiction. It's probably the biggest addiction worldwide. So sugar paralyzes the cell and doesn't allow your body to take care of itself. But I would say something way more important too is stress. We are living in a constant state of stress. Our children are growing up in constant state of stress, and then adults, okay? But I'm old enough to know what it was like before, I would say 30 years ago. Things were slower, calmer. We didn't have electrocution by EMFs and cell towers and all the other extraneous electromagnetic exposure from everything and everybody. We know that we are electrical energetic beings, okay? Dr. Fritz Popp has done from Germany. He's a physicist. Even Aristotle said that everything is energy. But the stress is a huge, huge, huge factor that is never addressed with the patient. And I would say that that's the first thing that I would address with any patient is, what has your stress level been like for the last 10 years? And sure enough, they will all tell you. I took care of my wife who had Alzheimer's for 10 years. I am the caretaker, matriarch for the family. So forth. I've had 10 people die in my family. So I always will address stress. And whether you receive conventional medical treatment or complementary treatments, if stress is not addressed, you will not heal because you are in sympathetic mode. And we know from the nervous system, we have two partitions of the sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is stress. My body is wired and I cannot heal. And that is proven. There's scientific documentation. You just Google it. You will find more than you can imagine on reading. And we need to be in a parasympathetic calm. So all of us need to be doing daily gratitude affirmations. We all need to be meditating. So I believe that the first thing is a panoramic, view of all their blood work. everything from comprehensive blood testing to hormone testing to vitamin testing to mineral testing to heavy metals to toxicity to gut, everything. So because we have to, no matter what disease process we are fixing, we have to make sure the matrix of the body is working for you. Before you have surgery, before you have chemo, before you have any medical treatment, do not go into a medical treatment unless this whole miraculous being is fixed, okay? And then I tell people, let's learn how to eat. We have to understand there's outrageous science of food, and you need to understand that, and it can't be accomplished in one visit because there's too much to know. Then the stress is another thing. We've been wired a certain way, so we're not going to get out of the stress mode in a day or two. It takes 3 to 6 months to learn how to learn impeccable self-talk. And then I will at the same time institute other treatments because unfortunately, so many of my patients come too late to me. Their doctor told them they're in remission and they're not.
Yes. And so in a minute, when we come back, we're going to get to the groundbreaking cancer treatments that you add to the traditional treatments that you mentioned 9 in the book. I think everyone needs to know about them because most people are totally unawares. I do want to just share a story that probably is the saddest story I've seen personally about cancer. There was a general surgeon in my town when I practiced traditional OBGYN who led a typical lifestyle, ate the typical diet, had high stress levels. And she actually had an instance where her husband became paralyzed from a boating accident. And that was a huge stressor. And several years later, I saw her at my favorite health food store, and she was consulting with the clerks there about what supplements to buy and how to eat because she had been diagnosed with colon cancer a couple years after the stressful event with her husband. And it made me so sad because if she had taken an interest in her diet and lifestyle ahead of time, she wouldn't then be at the health food store asking a store clerk what supplements to take and how to eat. And here you have a very intelligent woman. She's a medical doctor. She's a general surgeon, very successful. But it just highlighted for me how our current mainstream structure of medicine is just set up to promote disease and not to prevent disease. I don't want anybody listening to be in that boat. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the 9 groundbreaking cancer treatments that Dr. Connealy talks about in her book. You'll want to stay tuned for that. Did you know that you can get my personal attention on your medical concerns by scheduling a consultation with me, no matter where you live in the U.S.? Yep, that's right. You'll get the answers that you need when I focus my 20 plus years of experience, board certification, and fellowship training in functional medicine directly on your health concerns and identify the root causes of why you're not well and exactly what you need to do to get well. Whether you're suffering with overweight and fatigue, brain fog, hormonal imbalance, IBS, or autoimmune disease, hair loss, or the big 3, high blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes, I've got answers for you. You don't have to suffer with chronic health conditions, symptoms, or continuing drug treatments that don't actually fix the underlying problem. There are reasons why you're having the health challenges that you're now facing. We will uncover those reasons together when we work one-on-one with a personalized approach, and I'll lead you through a plan to correct them and get you feeling great in your own skin again. Use the link on my website, Kieran Dunstan, MD, to schedule a 15-minute complimentary phone consultation with me to discover how great your life will be when you conquer your health concerns. Visit KieranDunstanMD.com for more information. That's KieranDunstonMD.com. Your brilliant health is waiting. So welcome back. And Dr. Connealy, you talk about these groundbreaking cancer treatments that are really the hallmark of integrative functional approach, in addition to teaching people how to eat, helping them manage their stress and sleep. And we're going to get into next week talking about the things that you can do to prevent cancer. So you definitely want to come back for that episode. And we're also going to talk about early detection, some groundbreaking tests that Dr. Connealy alone offers that can detect cancer well before, years before traditional techniques like imaging. So let's get into those groundbreaking treatments that can help people.
Right. So usually immediately, besides the eating and the lifestyle, and we talked about coffee and so I always have patients clean out their liver. 50% of the population has fatty liver. So we know that we're being assaulted with toxicity, or we wouldn't have 50% of the population with fatty liver. I always put people on targeted supplements. The first ones are vitamin C. We know how powerful vitamin C is. It's the universal antidote to toxicity, to heavy metals, to viruses, to bugs, to helping the immune system. Then I always use pancreatic enzymes. Professor John Beard did the first studies on how pancreatic enzymes strip the coating of the cancer cells so the immune system goes after it. Then I also will give someone something daily to take for cleansing, and that would be like a charcoal or charcoal type substance, also zeolite, but I'll decide on each patient. But charcoal in the nano-size formula is very good. It's a very anti-cancer. Now, but then when the patients start, I will absolutely give the patient lymphatic drainage. Your lymph is 4 times greater than your blood circulation. So we have special devices that we use along with manual treatment to start cleansing the lymphatics to get the garbage out of the body. So if people have lymph glands from breast cancer or ovarian cancer or anything, that we get the lymph moving. Then I will have patients do endolaser treatments. I'll have them get in a red light bed. I got it from Germany. Our mitochondria are under attack with any disease process. So it looks like a tanning bed. And all of our patients come in tired. So we have them lay in there for 15, 20 minutes. And red light stimulates the mitochondria from head to toe. So it's good for any disease process. Then I will use IVs. Now I have lots of different IVs that I use depending upon the patients. So I'll do IV vitamin C. I do IV mistletoe and sub-Q mistletoe. I will do IV artesunate, IV curcumin, IV procaine and baking soda, depending if you have candida. I will do a multitude of IVs depending, but we want to target with each person. I tell people no one's quite the same. Now, if I'm going to shrink cancer, I will suggest maybe IPT, which is insulin potentiation therapy with chemo, and using low dose, 10% of a normal dose. Most people can't handle the assault of a regular chemo. So I will use a lower dose, especially if the patient is 60 plus or 70 plus. They already have a compromised immune system because of aging. So we're going to need to do that low dose. And cancer cells eat sugar. Insulin sensitizes the cancer cell to receive the chemo, sparing the other normal cells. So usually that is done once a week, depending on the size of the condition. You might need 8 treatments, you may need 12 treatments, but then we do supportive treatments so the patients can even handle that low dose chemo, all right? Then I use pulsed electromagnetic field. We know that cancer cells resonate at a much lower frequency. The PMF raises the frequency of the cells so the patient's body is going to be able to take care of themselves. The other thing is mostly all the patients do hyperbaric oxygen. Cancer is a low oxygen, acidic, denutrified environment. Otto Warburg got a Nobel Prize in 1930 talking about cancer cells do not need oxygen. And so when we flood the body with oxygen, the patient, first of all, feels better. A lot of the patients are anemic, so they're already low oxygen. And there's a test that you can check your own oxygen called PHI that tells me that you're in a hypoxic state. And I will say most patients are in a low oxygen state. Then we also will do something called, I mentioned about endolaser. We do it intravenously with different IV agents, depending. We might use lipoic acid, riboflavin, chlorophyll as sensitizers. So it's light therapy. So we know that light therapy, different wavelengths are great for all kinds of healing, whether it's the immune system, whether it's viruses, whether it's cancer. So a lot of our patients will get that definitely after chemo and the use of chemo that day, but we also will utilize it during the week because a lot of patients have candida. A lot of the patients have fungus. Then we do
ozone.
We do IV ozone. So we have so much different, I have so many different modalities, but ozone, IV ozone or rectal ozone. So ozone's utilized all over the world. And there's more papers on ozone than you can possibly imagine. But ozone basically kills all bugs, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and oxygenates the body and neutralizes toxicity. It's very, very good for mold, which is in 50% of people's households. So, and then I will also utilize hyperthermia. Hyperthermia is elevating the body or the body part because cancer cells don't like heat. We have something called heat shock proteins that are our own protective mechanism to destroy bugs and cancer. So we do local hyperthermia. We do not do whole body hyperthermia. Whole body hyperthermia is available in Europe. It's a very efficacious treatment. And sometimes I will send patients literally to Germany to get that along with the other. No cancer treatment just does one thing. You need so many modalities because we're unraveling 10 years as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Mistletoe. Mistletoe's been around for about 125 years. And there's thousands of PubMed studies on it. They're presently now doing studies at Johns Hopkins about utilizing just mistletoe in cancer patients to look at their outcome. But we already know that helps the immune system. It helps prevent vascularization to the cancer and also preventing metastasis, plus increasing the overall sense of well-being to patients. So I use a lot of different treatments because I'm resurrecting the vibration of this patient because they are sick. So we've got to turn a diseased body into a well, healthy, vital body like you were talking about.
Right. And there are so many modalities that you use. I know everybody listening is thinking, well, do these really work? Have they been proven to work? Why doesn't my regular doctor offer this if they're proven to work? And is this some quack science? So if you could address that, that would be great.
Right. Well, a lot of people actually ask that, but actually there's scientific evidence on all this.
Right.
Okay. That's the scary part. Like one of my patients from the Valley yesterday, she said, I asked my doctor about circulating tumor cells. And she said, oh, yeah, well, we don't know what to do with them anyway, because even if we check them and the science really isn't out. Well, actually in the US, there's a lab that actually checks circulating tumor cells, okay? Now, they're not accurate, but they're working on getting the best test available, but they're not accurate because I've used them, okay? And so I tell people, I always say, look, ask the doctor how many patients they've treated for lymphatic drainage. Actually, lymphatic drainage is actually covered by insurance, okay? So it's something. There's lymphologists now. There's doctors who now, MDs, who specialize in lymphology now, okay? So, and then if you want to look at hyperthermia, well, there's jillions of articles, PubMed articles worldwide on hyperthermia, on ozone, if you go to any conference. So I think if the doctors went to one conference like you and I have done, it would blow their mind showing the scientific evidence.
Yes, I think you're right. And there's so much to learn. I definitely want to direct everyone to Dr. Connealy's book, The Cancer Revolution. Next week, we'll be talking about innovative ways to prevent cancer and exciting opportunities for early screening like RGCC testing.
Right.
And they'll detect cancers years before traditional methods. So more on that when we come back next week. Thank you so much, Dr. Connealy, for offering your expertise and your passion for helping people to overcome what 1 in 2 of us will experience in our lifetime, which is probably one of the most devastating diagnoses that you can receive.
You are correct.
More next week. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on social media and send it to someone who would benefit from it. If you love the show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review, and subscribe. This helps other women find us so that they too can heal and enjoy brilliant health. I've got a gift for you. If you take a screenshot of your review, post it on your social media, and tag me, I'll send you a special surprise right to your inbox. Thank you so much for joining me. And remember, healing and getting optimally healthy isn't magic, it's science.